Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And pretty much I wanted to do this lesson. This is a title that Apostle Tahar had thrown out. He mentioned this, and it was very, it was a very good lesson idea. But pretty much, I think he said prophets do not take breaks. Okay, I forgot exactly what he was talking about when he said that. But yeah, he said prophets do not take breaks. Okay, which is absolutely correct. In fact, when you actually read the scriptures, if you go into, the historical background of some of these prophets that were prophesying, like maybe you go to like Hosea or Jeremiah or Isaiah or these prophets, and you actually read about how long they were out there. These prophets weren't out there for just like 1 or 2 years and then that's it. They called it a day. Okay, and being a prophet is basically like if you've ever had to do a job where you are on call, that pretty much means that you're always on notice, so at any point in time you may get a call or an email or an alert to go and have to do something pertaining to your job. Okay, and that's pretty much how the prophets are, right? Like we're always on call. As a matter of fact, let's actually start off with this precept, which pretty much lines up with that. I believe this is Habakkuk 2. Yeah, Habakkuk 2:1. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. So that is our job, right? When we do these lessons, that's the Spirit of the Lord comes upon you, because the Lord wants you to, he wants a message to come out. He wants you to put some, like, for example, I'm doing a lesson now. That's because the Lord put the Spirit on me, because, he wants this message to come out. Okay. So there are no breaks, in the sense that you can't just say, okay, I'm I'm taking like 3 weeks off or whatever the case is. No, you work when the Spirit jumps on you to work. Okay. So technically we have continual employment. All right. Technically we have continual employment, but the point is, you may read about certain prophets, and especially in the Old Testament, sometimes the scriptures will tell you the Spirit of the Lord or the word of the Lord came to such and such in this year and told him, go and do this, go and say this, because that's really what happens, right? The Most High, from his throne, he's seeing everything that's going on. All right, and then he says, all right, this is displeasing me, or I'm about to do this. The time is getting close. Raise up these prophets, send a message to them and let them know that I need them to go over here, and go and tell them, look, if you, for example, the Lord getting ready to raise up the Babylonians against the southern kingdom, right, the kingdom of Judah, he raised up Jeremiah and told him, look, go and prophesy unto them, because the time is close. All right, I'm already preparing the situation going on over there in the east to set it up to where these Babylonians come up into power. All right, or the kingdom of Babylon comes up. And so, go and prophesy unto them and tell them, look, if you don't do this, that, and the third, or whatever the case is, this is what's going to happen. Okay, so at that point, you can't, oh, well, Lord, I'm busy, or there's no such thing. And today it's the same way, except, the Lord doesn't tell us necessarily like get on a boat or a plane and go to like this part of the world and do this. When the Lord puts the Spirit on us, we teach the word, okay, and it's carried by way of the internet. All right, which is really just like a connection between different devices. So that, and everybody in today's day and age, for the most part, has a device that can connect to the internet. All right, so it's all interconnected, and that way, everybody's able to receive the word via these signals. So it's all part of the the job of a prophet, and the Most High set us up. So really, it's kind of like an existential job, because even the job of a prophet doesn't even end after you die. Because guess what? What did the Lord tell Daniel in Daniel the 12th chapter? Again, to the last verse, that go thy way, because you're going to have to come back and stand in thy lot in the last days. The same thing he told the Apostle John, that you're going to prophesy again before many people and kindreds and, nations and tongues and so on and so forth, right? So the Apostle John, he was going to die, but he was going to get reincarnated and come back in another time, another generation, to do the same thing, to do the same job. Okay, so true prophet to the Lord, you can't really get fired from your job, because if you're a true prophet of the Lord, you're always going to have that spirit upon you, okay, in these times. So now let's get the book of Ecclesiasticus 11 and 20. And it reads, be steadfast in thy covenant. And guess what? Ultimately, this is a covenant. This is an agreement, a deal that's between us and the Lord. And you got to be steadfast, okay, in that. And be conversant therein, and wax old in thy work. So there's no retirement age. There's no point where you can say, okay, I've done enough. Now let me kick back and relax. That's not how it works. Okay? It doesn't work that way. When you work at a certain location, you may get promoted, but being promoted doesn't mean you don't do any work. You just do a different kind of work, but you're still doing the same thing. You're still making sure the same thing gets done. The thing in the Lord's work is the job description does not change. Okay? It does not change. The Lord gave us a requirement, right? Ezekiel 3. Eat the roll and go and teach the house of Israel. So guess what? That does not change. No matter how high up you go in the ladder, you still the job description is still the same. And that's why you see, for example, the apostles, at their age, they're still doing the same job that they were doing when they first came into the truth. Okay? The same job that we're doing. They're doing the same thing. They're prophesying, they're teaching, they're breaking down the scriptures. Okay, because that's the work that the Lord told us, that he set us up to do. And that's the work that we have to wax old in. So until Yahushua comes back, or until he calls you back, your job remains the same. And there's always work to do, right? The scriptures say that the harvest truly is, great or plenteous, but the laborers are few. So now moving on, this is the book of Sirach, chapter 39, verse 1. But he that giveth his mind, and honestly, this is something that you wouldn't have to try hard to do if that's the spirit that's already on you. If you already have if you have the spirit of a true prophet, it's not even going to be a question about taking breaks. When I say taking breaks, I don't mean you're doing lessons 24/7, as in like every minute, every second of the day, right? Because even that the scriptures tell you that much study is weariness of the flesh, right? And the Lord doesn't work that way. He ain't gonna put the spirit on you to sit there and 24 hours in a day, you don't eat, you don't drink, you're just doing lessons, speaking. Okay. But the point is that the spirit of the Lord will be upon you, so you'll be constantly, daily, or you'll just be consistent. You'll be diligent. All right. You ain't gonna go like 3 months, 2-3 months, and you haven't felt the spirit on you to do a lesson. Right. So it says, but he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies. And a part of that occupation is to actually prophesy. Okay, it's to actually, break down the word and edify, as the Lord has commanded us to do. But that's if you give your mind to the law of the Most High and you're occupied in the meditations thereof. Okay, and as it says, he will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and that a great deal of that wisdom is in the scriptures. So you would read and study and arm yourself or prepare yourself with the knowledge, all right, of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, so you can do an effective job. Okay, i.e., you will not be stagnant. And this is 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 2. Preach the word, right, which is the primary goal. Preach the word. Be instant in season, out of season. So regardless of what season you're in, you got to stay in the same. The scriptures say you have to be apt to teach. Okay, Reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. Because if we stop doing what we're doing, who's going to do it? Right? The Lord set us up for a reason. So if we're not doing it, obviously he can set up whoever he wants to do. But just from a practical standpoint, who's going to do it? You know? So the scriptures tell you, man, and the apostle Peter said that, right? Give diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if you do these things, ye shall not fall. So at the end of the day, if you're a true prophet of the Lord, you wouldn't need to be told, yo, you got to be consistent. Everybody would already know what time it is, because it's a spiritual thing. You know, it's a spiritual thing. Okay. And for example, and that's pretty much the same example and mindset that Yahushua had. And that's the same example he left for us. Right? This is John 4:34. Yahushua saith unto them, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me and to finish his work. So what mindset was Yahushua in? He was all about the work of the Heavenly Father. The reason he was sent in that lifetime is what he was there to do and accomplish and fulfill, which he did. Okay, and that's why he said, and to finish it. Not to stop midway, not to take breaks, not to think that I've done enough, you know, and then call it a day. No, you don't determine that. Okay, you know, it's like when you go to the average or basic way that this goes is when you get a job, you don't set your hours for the most part, depending on the kind of job, right? But we'll just take it for the most part. If they tell you work in this shift, the shift already has set hours. Maybe it's the morning shift. So it's going to be, I don't know, 9 to like 2 or something. All right. Or you may work the evening. You may close or something. But the hours are already set. You know, you don't go in there and say, all right, the hour is set 2, but I'm leaving at 12. You don't determine that. So you don't determine when the work is done, because guess what? You do that, you fired. All right. So, and if you do a no call, no show, guess what? If they don't have tolerance, maybe they might give you a warning or a strike. But you do that consistently, guess what happens? You're gone. And it's sad that people can be consistent at being inconsistent and yet be so inconsistent at being consistent. Meaning you're more diligent at not being diligent than you are at being diligent. You know, if it comes to not doing something, we can count on you. But when it comes to doing something, that's not there. Right? So as the Lord said, his meat is to do the will of him that sent him and to finish his work. So that's the example that we follow. And that's something you're going to be able to do regardless if you have that spirit upon you. Which leads me into this last precept, which is Romans chapter 10, verse 13. For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. How then, which this is referring to amongst Israelites, all right? How then shall they call on him whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him or believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? See? So you need prophets, you need teachers out here to help in that chain, in that cycle. Because you need to call on the name of the Lord to be saved. But you can't call on somebody you don't believe in, and you can't believe in somebody you don't know about. So how are you going to know about them? We got to come in and teach you. But then how are we going to teach? Right? Verse 15, and how shall they preach except they be sent? And that's the key right there. If you're not sent, you're not going to preach. And what I mean by that is when I say preach, I mean do it the right way, the diligent way, not taking breaks. You know, just fulfilling the job description to the T, to what is asked of you. You're going to be able to do that, and you're going to be able to do it well if you've been sent, because the Most High does not send mediocre individuals to do an absolute job. No. Okay. What that, and you may say, well, what about individuals that came into the truth and then they fell out at some point? Guess what? Their job was not absolute. Their job was to come in there and do what they did, which is either to come in there, labor for a while, and then turn into a bug out, or come in there and you know, because think about it, right? a bug out, somebody who becomes a demon, they needed to be prepared. They couldn't, if the Lord says, I want this person to be an opposition, I want this person to be a demon, right? And come against, you guys or mislead people. Well, if I take them as they are, they're not going to be effective. They don't know scriptures. They don't know the breakdowns. They don't know any of that. They're on a lower level than an average Christian. So I need them to come in here, learn, and get up on some level. And then once they have the understanding of how to navigate the scriptures, then I'm gonna make them a bug out. So at least they can make some sort of argument, for their case. That way I can use them as an effective stumbling block. But if I was to take them straight from the world, they don't even know Genesis from Revelation. They don't know which part of the book to open to. So they got to come in, they got to labor for a while, they got to learn a thing or two, and then I'm gonna make them a bug out now that they've been equipped. So the reason they were sent, their job was to come and be a bug out. They were in training to become it's a lot, but it just sounds kind of funny, right? But ultimately, your job is where you end up. And we'll find that out in the last day, right? Meaning if your job was to be a prophet, you'll find that out based on how the individual is. If they endure unto the end and they continue to remain diligent and they get delivered, you're going to find, okay, this person was sent to be a prophet. That was his job. But if you have somebody that drops out halfway and they become a full-fledged demon, their job was to be a demon. Even though they labored for maybe 5-10 years in the beginning, that was just to prepare them to become a demon. Okay? To know enough so they can twist it enough. And then be a stumbling block, a big enough stumbling block to get whoever the Lord doesn't want. Okay? So the Lord, those that are sent to be prophets are going to do what prophets do. And prophets don't take breaks. Okay? That's why the Lord said, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me, because it's just like, you don't take a break from eating. If you go on a fast where you so-called take a break from eating, one of the main things that keeps recurringly coming into your mind is go and eat. You want to eat. You want the time to be over so you can go eat. You got to keep suppressing those thoughts because that urge just keeps coming up, right? So if you liken your work for the Lord as to how you feel about eating, then you'll understand, like the Lord said, right? Like if you go without eating, the one thing that's mainly on your mind when you get hungry is to go and eat. Just like if you go without doing the work, the one thing that's mainly on your mind is you got to go and do something. You got to do a lesson. You got to contribute. Okay, that's the spirit of the true prophets. So let me finish this up here. It says, as it is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things. Okay, and that's what we're doing. Lord willing, we be those men. So with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rechak, Wadash. And until next time, Shalom.